made of Nigeria's relationship with Britain for long, and economic strengths. I think we are still of great attachment to them.
President Buhari meets British monarch King Charles III, solicits enhanced bilateral relations for Nigeria.
Federal Executive Council approves revised National Animal Health Policy.
Security receives a boost with procurement of additional facilities.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, our focus will be on fixing washed out highways after the 2022 floods.
Many days after the unforgettable flood that nearly swept off communities in Nigeria, the stark reality of the devastating impacts of the flood still stares the nation in the eye, revealing its magnitude by the day. From health to wealth, economy to food security, and now, ghastly, devastating washed-off roads and highways that cut off communities and render many homeless and unreachable.
Indeed, of course, it's been a sad tale and a tearful one for most communities that were swept off by the floods, and indeed for also travelers using the nation's highways. The floods have cost the country a lot of valuables, lives and property, and the cost of which many say is still being quantified. But in the meantime, the highways to which we refer to, namely federal roads or the so-called trunk A roads, have contributed usually immensely to the socio-economic movements and, of course, achievements of the country in no small measure. This is because of the connecting links that they provide for economic and social activities in the country. This is in addition, of course, to the fact that they do link the country with other neighboring countries.
And you know, some of the affected roads include Onitsha-Owerri Road, Kogi-Abuja access, the East-West Road in Bayelsa and Jigawa. It is worthy of note that these roads, which run through the south to the north, are constructed and maintained by the federal government of Nigeria through the Federal Ministry of Works and the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency. It is therefore not surprising when the federal government at the Federal Executive Council approved the sum of 506 billion naira for the completion of the East-West Road affected by flooding this year.
Well, one question to ask is how does the Federal Ministry of Works intend to go about the rehabilitation or reconstruction of the roads that have been washed out by the immense floods of year 2020. In addition to Bayelsa that you mentioned, East-West Road, those of course who live in Patani, which is in Delta State, will also say, wow, our part of the East-West Road was heavily impacted. We also mentioned Kogi, Abuja. That's to say from Kogi State to Abuja. There are others who will also tell you that from Edo State, usually from Iruekmen now, from Ehol to Iruekmen, to Ekpoma, right up to Auchi, the roads, of course, have been broken and rendered impassable by the floods of this year. Jigawa State is also massively affected. We also heard stories from Adamawa about the roads that were washed out, in addition, of course, to what happened in Taraba, plus the southeast of the country. So what is the fate of these communities that have been cut off as a result of the badly damaged roads? And more importantly, why is it that the devastation has been immense in terms of the impacts of the floods? Were the roads constructed in such a way that they could not withstand water and flooding? Now, what are the measures needed to rectify all of this? In the meantime, of course, to make the roads passable, and what permanent measures are required for construction? These are some of the issues we intend to take a look at in our conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria today. I welcome you to the program. As always, we are live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Ian Ray John, reaching you from Nigeria's capital city. Our complimentary segments are handy, and we'll begin with the morning news with Anne Jibuno. Good morning, Anne. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you, Nyeri, and good morning. Good morning, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigeria. Here's the news. Issues relating to ways and means of deepening and expanding the long-standing as well as highly beneficial relations between Nigeria and the United Kingdom dominated discussions as President Muhammadu Buhari held talks with the British monarch King Charles III in London.
He's interested very much in Nigeria. Maybe of Nigeria's relationship with Britain for all long, and our economic strengths. I think we are still of great attachment to them, and he really speaks very well of Nigeria, and he showed the interest that he want the relationship to continue and, if possible, to be improved.
The Federal Executive Council at its meeting on Wednesday approved a new national animal health policy. The revised policy is designed to help prevent transmission of animal diseases to humans. Council also approved the creation of a database of National Capital Projects Information System, which seeks to take care of increasing number of abandoned and uncompleted projects across the country.
The purpose of the new policy is to upgrade on the old policy to make sure it's comprehensive. And this is based on a new concept of One Health. One Health meaning human health and animal health can be considered as one, because one can cause an adverse effect, especially animals to humans. So this is basically really the purpose of this policy and has been approved.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says given the quantum of investments and other challenges involved, only strong partnerships and coordination among African countries can guarantee the mobilization of resources required for a just energy transition. He also insisted that the case of the African continent, particularly with respect to the just energy transition, is cogent and irrefutable. Vice President Osinbajo made these submissions in a message he sent during the unveiling of the 4D Digital Green Industrial Corridor and launch of the African Union Transition Fuels Oversight and Regulatory Management Accelerator, named Transformer, which is an initiative to fast-track the Digital Green Industrial Corridor between the African Continental Free Trade Area member states. The Vice President explained that tackling the combined challenges of COVID-19 recovery, climate change, and of overall sustainable development requires significant resources that can only be delivered through strong partnerships and coordination. The Vice President emphasized the need for stakeholders to be united in order to attract more attention, noting that it is clear that joint advocacy on principles for a just transition is getting stronger. Homegrown solutions must do the same. Transformation, he says, is indeed a welcome development and recognize the value that the transcontinental policy and implementation vehicle offers in mobilizing larger investments, improving shared learning and producing larger economies of scale for individual nations like Nigeria and also for the entire continent. In view of the emerging security challenges in the country, the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, has provided additional facilities at its college in Karu to accommodate more personnel and upscale intelligence gathering. That the Minister of Defense, Bashir Magashi, inaugurated projects.
College trains about 60 to 80 students who are drawn from the agency as well as the armed forces ministries, departments, and agencies, as well as paramilitary organizations. Now, they need to increase this number of students, trainees, and necessitated the construction of a 300-seater auditorium.
Meanwhile, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has acquired and deployed 3 high-powered unmanned aerial vehicles for improved armed surveillance operations to checkmate criminal activities in the country. A statement by the force says the deployment is part of the IGP's determination to integrate the use of innovative technology in the law enforcement duties and to assist the force in monitoring active crime scenes, coordinating response operations, and providing armed aerial support to officers on reconnaissance operations. The Nigeria Police has equally concluded training for the operators of drones in the partnership with foreign experts who have been consulted for training and maintenance of drones. The IGP also ordered a total clampdown on non-state actors and criminals in the country. Participants at the UNESCO Media and Information Literacy Week have returned home to their countries, but no doubt with memories that will linger on for a while. Our correspondent shared such memories with one of such delegates.
People are warm, they're friendly, they're very caring. I feel that we were welcomed very warmly, and so it was quite a joy, actually.
Well, that's it for now. The program continues with Kingsley and Yeri after the break.
The Honorable Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, welcomes the United Nations World Tourism Organization Secretary General and Ministers of Tourism, Culture and Arts from the UNWTO member states to the first UNWTO Global Conference on Linking Tourism, Culture and the Creative Industries. Date from 14th to 16th November 2022. Venue, National Theatre, Igomu, Lagos. Workshops and technical sessions starts on 14th November. Opening ceremony 15th November, time 10 a.m. A Day with Nollywood, 16th November, time 10 a.m. Special guest, UNWTO Secretary General, Mr. Zurab Pololikashvili. Special guest of honor, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, President, Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mrs. Lydia Shehu Jafia, MNI, Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. Announcer.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Nigerians, elections are here again. Let us shun violence. Let us play the game according to the rules. Do not be a thug. Say no to violence. Let's rise and defeat violence, crime, and sabotage against the peace of our nation. Nigeria is the only country we have. We must do everything to keep it united. We must avoid any act that promotes hate and disintegration. Say no to separatist movement, terrorism, fake news, hate speech, religious bigotry, and any act that tends to divide us as a nation. Watch out for strange gatherings and suspicious movements. Restrict access to sensitive documents and data, the disclosure of which may damage national security. Educate your staff and family, particularly on measures to safeguard information and report security breaches. Apply relevant legal security guidelines to protect yourself and your neighbors. Due to misinformation and wrong choices, some idle persons resort to vices in their greed to get rich quick. They resort to kidnapping, killings for rituals, and other heinous crimes. Avoid wrong use of the social media. Before you broadcast that false message, think twice. Ask whether it will promote peace or violence. For safety at home, still be security conscious. Educate your household on safety tips. Report all suspicious movements and persons to the security agencies nearest to you. Be a good citizen. Be patriotic. To pass security information, please call 0813-222-2105, 0915-339-1309, 0908-837-3514, or send a mail to dsspr@dss.gov.ng. This message is from the Department of State Services, DSS.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
Our pastors, our imams, in every church, in every mosque, please realize that in the course of praying for peaceful and transparent elections, we all have duties beyond prayers. If we want a stable society before, during, and after the elections, what should you be saying to those that worship with you all Sundays and all Fridays? You are saddled with the responsibility of bringing up good generations. It is therefore your duty to both man and God to ensure peace all the time, no matter about elections alone. People talk to people and people listen. Talk to your followers. Make them listen to ensure peaceful 2023 elections. This message from the National Orientation Agency.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's time for business news, and we join our correspondent, Alika Okpanachi Arwa.
The federal government has continued to involve measures to promote rapid and sustainable economic growth. This includes Nigeria Agenda 2050, designed to drastically reduce poverty rates to 0.6% and unemployment rate to 6.3%. Minister of State, Budget and National Planning, Clem Agba, while briefing newsmen on the strategic steps the government is taking ahead of the 28th Nigerian Economic Summit, said the government is looking to transit the economy to the highest per capita GDP in the group of income economies. He said when the plan gets to the implementation stage, efforts will be made to promote rapid and sustainable economic growth of 7% on the average.
The private sector will be the engine of growth of the economy, while the government will implement policies and regulations that promote favorable business environment to achieve high rates of investment and savings. The investment is necessary to raise the economy to a GDP of 11.7 trillion US dollars by 2050, while structural barriers that constrain the vulnerable segment of the economy of the society from realizing its potentials are addressed.
2023 presents another opportunity to demonstrate a strong political will to tackle Nigeria's socioeconomic challenges. Hence, the NESG seeks to unveil the most critical challenges for urgent attention. These are 1. Unemployment, 2. Huge infrastructural deficit, 3. Fiscal weakness, 4. Human capital and skills gap, 5. Flawed security architecture, 6. Corruption.
The 28th Nigerian Economic Summit, slated for November 14th and 15th, has this theme, 2023 and beyond, priorities for shared prosperity. And now let's take a look at Wednesday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Okpanachi Arwa.
Many thanks, Salika, for that update. Up next is newspaper review.
Right, we have 4 newspapers this morning, and the front pages are quite busy. Let's begin by taking a look at the window page of the Punch newspaper. Above the name flag, I told aggrieved governors my worries. That's according to Bala Mohammed, governor of Bauchi State. AMCON recovers 307 billion naira debt. INEC to sanction 23 workers for illegal registration. 28 killed in Benue clashes. Government demands probe. The lead story, of course, has to do with political violence, and it says controversy surrounds Atiku convoy attack in Borno. Ex-VP's convoy attacked 3 eyes, scores injured, APC responsible. That's according to the PDP chairman. PDP faction behind attacks count APC out on Anuga and Borno APC chair. There was no attack. Suspected hoodlum arrested, says police spokesperson. Now you see the photographs there of Nigerians who were successful in the midterm U.S. elections. And that's the second lead story with the headline, Buhari praised successful tenure for Nigerian Americans elected in the U.S. And of course, most of the success stories came from the state of Georgia as well as Pennsylvania. It's also Esther Agbaje from Minnesota and Owolewa, who's a shadow rep in Washington, D.C. So congratulations to the 8 Nigerians who were successful in the U.S. midterm elections. They're still trying to sort out the balance of power in the U.S. Congress. I will engage separatist movement in talks. That's according to Kwankwanso, presidential candidate of NNPP. Yobe, Auditor General, arraigned for 19 million naira fraud. Why Nigeria can't implement AU free movement? Federal government. Details on page 14.
All right, I have the New Telegraph newspaper, and looking at the banner, that's the Borders headline this morning. We have PDP appeals to Jonathan to wade in as G5 governors shun Maiduguri rally. The kicker to that story is actually widening crack. And the riders, we have reconciliation door still open, and that is credited to Wiki. Speculations trail Ayu's absence. And we also have police debunk attack on PDP's convoy, of course, that's coming from Borno. And says 32-year-old man threw stones at it. We also have attack cowardly, that's credited to the PDP, and Atiku postpones visit to Kebbi. Away from that, above the Borders headline on the New Telegraph newspaper this morning, talking about the front page, we have insecurity. That's the kicker. We have acquired 3 drones. That is credited to the police. Details on page 2 of the New Telegraph. And page 28, we have details of this story. Oil sector reform. Kyari alleges threat to life. All right, just beside that, we have Ararume slams 100 billion naira suit on Buhari over alleged unlawful removal as NNPC chair. And details of that is on page 2. Details of this particular story is on page 4. And it reads, FEC approves team to sell, repurpose abandoned government buildings. And the writer says, OK is 14.8 billion naira for FIRS Lagos office building. Above the masthead, we have in a black strip, Naira redesign. Dollars rush wanes as Naira strengthens to 820 Naira. And all of that is on page 25. Above that headline, we have Nigeria's crude oil output hits 1.014 million barrels per day, 4-month high. And the writer says, crude theft, Equatorial Guinea hands over rogue vessels to Nigeria. Just quickly looking at the bottom of the front page of the New Telegraph this morning, we have other headlines right here. Nigeria accounts for highest illicit financial flow in Africa, and that is credited to the IPC chair. The writer says, nation rich in natural resources, yet poor. That's coming from the German government. Also, country victim of bad actors. That's coming from Bajakbe Amila. Beside that, we have flood, challenge of bringing soccer to displaced persons in Bayelsa, others overwhelming, and that's credited to the presidency. And details is on page 3 of the New Telegraph. So that's the New Telegraph this morning.
Okay, we also look very quickly at some of the headlines on the window page of the leadership. Above the nameplate, insecurity, police deploy armed drones in strategic locations. And then below the name flag, regardless who wins 2023 election, tough times lie ahead. And that's attributed to the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. 74 hospitalized as suspected thugs attack Atiku's convoy in Borno, and that's a claim by Dino Melai. And the lead story comes with a kicker as crisis escalates. PDP leaders woo Jonathan to placate aggrieved governors. The PDP leaders say ex-president has enormous influence over them. We are still open to negotiation. That's according to Wike. Inexorably connected with PDP G5 governors. That's Bala Mohammed. Inri already read a story about Ararume suing the president over his removal as NNPC board chair. 8 Nigerian Americans win in midterm U.S. elections. We already saw that on the front page of the Punch. Calls for humanitarian minister's removal unnecessary, says presidency. Inri?
Okay, so the blueprint is next, and the Borders headline here says scores injured as APC PDP supporters clash Maz Atiku's Borno campaign. The writers to that story have ruling party higher thoughts to attack my convoy. Of course, this is on all the dailies this morning, and it's screaming boldly. Thuggery not in our character, credited to the APC. G5 governors visit to Bala in Bauchi deepens opposition party's crisis, and NEF tackles autumn over Benue killings and Fulani profiling. And we also have Tinubu to Pali Nasarawa miners today. Away from that, quickly, above that headline, we have Nigeria earned $741.74 million, 624 billion naira from oil, solid minerals in 21 years. That is credited to NTA. We also have this headline coming from Melikiari, my life under threat over reforms in oil sector. And just moving away from that now, we have NPC proposes 532.7 billion naira for 2023 census and promises accurate and credible, reliable exercise. And that's details on page 9 of the blueprint. Below that, we have missing Anambra INEC official found dead. Below that, we have Nigeria's broadband plan yields 5.24% increase in 2 years. And just below the picture story, we have IGP deploys 3 drones, others clamp down on non-state actors. And just below that headline, we have stagflation, alarm bells resound as hunger becomes monster. We also have here, flood calls for resignation of humanitarian affairs minister, inappropriate. That is credited to the presidency. Also, at the bottom of the blueprint this morning, you can find details on page 9. We have FCT Pension Board disburses 8 billion naira to 1,217 retirees in 6 years. And beside that, we have AMCON recovers 207 billion naira in 2 years. Committee wants culprits stopped from government business. So that's the blueprint this morning. You can find all the details of the stories in the front pages of these newspapers when you get any of them.
Well, there are a number of stories on the front pages of the papers this morning, and there's really the major story, of course, is the alleged attack on the convoy of the presidential candidate of the PDP. Now, if this is one incident of shall we say electoral violence, since we're in the electioneering season, I think that the law enforcement agencies should move in. The police have said that a suspected hoodlum had been arrested and several persons have also been hospitalized. Who was responsible for it? And what are the sanctions? It isn't just sufficient that accusations are being traded. PDP says, the attack was masterminded by APC. Now, APC is saying, no, it's a PDP faction, that is behind the attacks. Whoever is behind the attacks, they should be picked up and then they should be prosecuted speedily. It is when you have unnecessary controversy like this and you try to sweep it under the carpet that others would then derive the oxygen to perpetrate further mayhem. I will recall what happened in 2015 ahead of the 2015 presidential election. The convoy of the then president, Goodluck Jonathan, was attacked. And it was just the restraint of the security personnel with the president at the time that, of course, averted the bloodshed, because the security personnel have the mandate, if you like, the warrant, to defend the president. In this case, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is on the campaign trail, and therefore he deserves all the protection. And the same way that other citizens deserve protection. No one has a right to attack the convoy of another. You have attacked, the convoy was attacked. What was that intended to achieve? That he has no right to campaign in Borno or what? I mean, I think that these instances should, of course, be used as examples to show the intolerance of the law to wanton acts of violence and disrespect of laid down rules.
Very correct. I agree totally with you. It's very important that the law enforcement agencies do the needful, because we still have a lot of time before the election proper. And if we do not, put this in check, I mean, what's going to happen during the elections itself? I mean, that's something we don't want to see. We actually don't want violence in our elections come 2023 and, before or after the election. So yes, security agencies need to be on their toes. And you already mentioned in one of the papers, the 8 Nigerians who actually made the Nigerian flag fly really high yesterday, and of course we wish them successful tenure, and hoping that more good news like this of Nigerians in diaspora will begin to come out, and all the stories of Nigerians being fraudulent outside the country would actually go down, and yes, we will be
those usually a very tiny few, the same way you have fraudsters in other countries. This is political victory for Nigerian politicians who are in the US. We also have had very pleasant stories from out of the United Kingdom, you remember?
Yes.
A number of Nigerians, had previously won elections, and Kemi Badenoch was pretty close as one of the contestants for the position of leading the Conservative Party in Britain. So good luck to them. I wish them the very best, and of course, the more Nigerians that get into political positions, the better it will be as an encourager to other Nigerians, and indeed to other blacks who form the minority in the United States. I just wanted to say, you still want to have a comment on this?
Yes, I just wanted to say that you said to be an encourager. I just hope it will not encourage the Japa phenomenon we're currently experiencing.
Well, well, I understand what you are saying. That's a good one. But even if you were to Japa today, it's going to take you a while to be eligible to contest.
But when you know your sister is in charge of government there, I mean, you can...
No, not at all. You must be eligible. You must be eligible under the rules, under the electoral rules. Now, okay. the story that Punch has here on the front page promoted about why Nigeria can't implement AU free movement. It's slightly confusing, and I think that further clarification is required. You have the details on page 14. Let me tell you why I say it's confusing. So the Minister of Interior has criticized the continent's restriction on the movement of goods and people. He explained that the insurgency in the Sahel region was one of the reasons Nigeria was reluctant to rectify the free movement protocol, adding that the country had introduced a visa on arrival policy to ease movement in the country. The minister assured the AU of Nigeria's willingness to work with the organization to achieve free movement of people within West African countries. I don't know. I think that some clarification is required. It's a statement coming from the office of the Minister of Interior, and I think that they can sort that out. I'm also, for those who are interested in corporate governance, it will be interesting to see how the matter that Ararume has filed will be decided. That's to say, he was nominated to be chairman of the board of NNPC on the basis, of course, of the reforms coming on the heels of the Petroleum Industry Act. Now he says that he's suing the president for 100 billion naira over his sack. I won't get into details because the matter is already subject. And as I said, that the interest will be to see what the judicial attitude will be to a petition of this nature.
And of course, anything can happen when it comes to the judiciary. Looking at latest verdicts in the past few days, So let's just keep our fingers crossed as the developments unfold. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the Nigerian Television Authority. We shall get into this discussion proper after this break. Please stay.
The security challenges we have faced as a government have been daunting, from terrorism to banditry, to kidnapping, to separatist violence, to crude oil theft, to armed robbery and sundry crimes. It's undoubtedly the greatest challenge to the peace and security of our great country since the Civil War of 1967 to 1970. It's a kind of challenge that would have overwhelmed many nations. But thanks to the purposeful leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, we can say, I want to repeat, that the worst is over, and peace and security are gradually returning to the land.
This message is brought to you from the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as the elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
The center is purposely established in order to provide these services that are examinations, medical examinations, and investigations that were not provided for in Kano as well as the entire Northwest region. It's equipped with modern technological equipment. In terms of radiological services, we have MRI 1.5 Tesla, we have digital X-ray, as well as 4D ultrasound equipment. The importance of the center cannot be overemphasized. Just within 1 year, the center get to thousands and numerous patients as well as medical examinations. Integrity.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
As a prompt for discussion on 2022 flood fixing washed highways, let's join Abdusalam Jibril for the background report.
It is no more news that the recent spate of flooding has left the country counting losses since early October this year. According to the humanitarian ministry, more than 600 people have died in the worst flooding the nation has seen in a decade. Some 1.3 million people have been displaced and more than 200,000 homes have been destroyed. From Jigawa to Bayelsa, Kogi to Anambra State, the devastating floods have inundated Nigeria has witnessed since the 2012 disaster. While the torrential rainfalls have reduced, the receding floods have left such devastation in its wake. Major interstate roads have either been taken over by flood or have caused damages to infrastructure, including bridges and road collapses. The receding waters have shown the extent of damage of the strategic east-west road. Recently, a fuel tanker fell into a damaged portion of the Onitsha-Owerri road after the flood had receded. In Jigawa State, the conditions of the destroyed roads after the floods have receded leaves much to be desired. Such sites are littered across major highways in the country, hampering travel logistics and making the roads difficult to ply. Recently, the federal government has explained that the extent to the damage to the roads and other public infrastructure by floods across the country was yet to be ascertained. The Federal Executive Council (FEC), at its meeting just over a week ago, approved the sum of 400 billion naira for the repairs of some section of the East-West Road as well as federal roads in Lagos, Yobe, Kano, and Jigawa states. How far will this go into the rehabilitations of the roads? What measures should be adopted in the interim while the roads are fixed? Why are the roads unable to outlast such floods in the country? Guests on the program will be speaking to these and more shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Abdusalam Jibril, for that background. We have guests with us in the studios, as well as, of course, via Zoom to discuss issues around fixing the washed-out highways in the country. We're talking about that caption there on the screen. It's not washed highways, washed out highways. We'll make a correction of that presently. So with us in the studios is the Deputy National Chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Highway and Transportation Engineers Division of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, is Engineer Seidu Hassan. Engineer Seidu Hassan, we're glad to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
Also here with us in the studios is the Honorable Commissioner in the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure in Bayelsa State, Honorable Moses Tebowe. Tebowe is also the chairman of the Infrastructure Rehabilitation Committee in Bayelsa. Tebowe, we're glad to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you very much.
And also with us in the studio is the former current president, Engineer Kashim Ali. Thanks for being part of the program.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And joining us via Zoom from DUSE, his Executive Secretary, Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency, Yusuf Sani Babura. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, it's our pleasure to have you with us for today's conversation. We have seen the visuals of some of the federal highways and also interstate roads that were washed out by the floods. Let's begin by, as it were, getting a situation report from our two guests in the states that were impacted heavily by the floods. We're talking about Bayelsa and Jigawa. The Honorable Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure in Bayelsa. What is the story about the highways in Bayelsa?
Well, talking about highways in Bayelsa, if you are talking about federal highways, the span within Bayelsa is to a large extent limited. However, we have some major roads within Bayelsa State that belong to federal government. Specifically, I'll mention about the main road leading into the state capital, Yenegua, which is Imbiama Yenegua Road, now known as Chief Medford-Okilo Road. That road is not impacted by the flood. But we also have federal roads that are leading to local government headquarters, but they are being constructed by the state government. We have the Sagbama Ekirimo Road. The flood impacted the road badly, and people can no longer access University of Africa, which is in Torurua. It is cut at about 3 places completely. So access to University of Africa in Sagbama local government is not possible. Then we also have the one going to Oporuma, from Yenegua to Oporuma. There, it is not much of a problem. But we have several roads within Yenegua and Bayelsa State in general that is heavily impacted by this flood. We have the road leading to Amasoma, where you have the Niger Delta University. 3 places completely cut off, and so accessibility to Niger Delta University is not possible. Similarly, the road to airports was so threatened, badly affected, but during the flood, we were able to use boulders to carry out emergency works to enable people to access the airport. And that is why today you can still get to Bayelsa through the airport and be able to drive to Yenegua. We also have another road leading to Imiringi in Ogwa local government. We have about 4 places completely damaged. And so going to Ogwa local government that leads you to Nembe, then Brass, you have to go through River State from Okaki, which is a community in River State, to access communities in Ogwa local government before you can access Nembe. That is how bad it is in Bayelsa State.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tebowe, for that update as regards to the state of roads in Bayelsa as a result of the flood. Let's quickly go to Jigawa State now, so we can also have a feel of what it's like in Jigawa State. Yusuf Sani Bubar, I'm sure you can hear me. Could you, just take a cue from what the Honorable Commissioner has said as regards the state of roads in Bayelsa? What is it like in Jigawa? Can we connect Jigawa?
Exactly, it was
almost the same problem with Bayelsa, because during the floods, the Jigawa State capital was completely cut off from the remaining 27 local government areas, because all the roads leading to the state capital were destroyed by the flood, in which almost about 7 bridges along the federal highways were completely washed away by the water. So we were only left with one road from Kano leading to Birnukudu to Maiduguri. That was the only road we have during the flood. So anybody from Hadeja area, that is from the eastern part of the state, if he wants to come to Jigawa State Capital, which is just 100 and something kilometers, you have to go around to the other state, to Kano State, to come to Jigawa here, which is about 300 kilometers. So actually, almost all the state roads were completely washed away, and about culverts, 56 culverts were completely destroyed away along the state roads. So actually, the damage was very serious. It is only just now that the state government is trying its best to make the roads to make something so that the people can pass through the damaged bridges.
Yusuf Sani, tell us, are the floods still raging in Jigawa, or they have receded?
No, the flood is now receding, but the flood is coming to Jigawa from the western part of the state, from Wigi local government down to Guri, from Guri to Yobe state. The western part of the state is now, the flood is now receding, and the last local governments to be affected is now still flooded. So we're still facing this flood problem in Jigawa State around Guri and Kirikasama. We still have plenty IDPs which are not able to go back to their various houses. So we are taking care of them. About 56,000 IDPs presently. So still the flood is raging the states.
Okay, Yusuf, thank you very much. We'll come back to you presently. I want to return to the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure. While you were ticking off the roads affected by the floods, I didn't hear you mention East-West Road, and yet some of the visuals that we have seen on the social media were showing vast sections of the East-West Road that were apparently washed out by the floods. What is the situation, at least in the section of Bayelsa?
Okay, in this section of Bayelsa, we only have bad spots because, as I started, I mentioned it clearly that the span of the East-West Road that covers Bayelsa is not that long. The East-West Road had problems that cut off Bayelsa State from other parts of the country. Going to Port Harcourt, at Okogbe area, the road is completely damaged. Then going to Warri from Patani in Delta State, going to Ugeli, also had serious problems. I had to personally go and see things on ground because the governor directed me. And on my way, we have to use engine boat on the East-West Road to get to a point where we had to join a car, drove for some time, and entered boat again on East-West Road. Governor even directed that we should go and repair the Patani axis of it so that foodstuffs will be able to come from Warri and petroleum products also. But my advice was that because of the level of the water, that it was not going to be possible for us to start maintenance work or rehabilitation work on that axis, that we should give ourselves about a week. Maybe possibly the flood will recede, and if it recedes, then petroleum products and food items will be able to come from Warri axis. But on the Port Harcourt axis, it was completely a disaster that people had to join 911 trucks, lorries to be able to move to Port Harcourt, and it was very, very dangerous. the only remedy that came to the rescue of people was that the Nigerian Navy at a point had to provide boats to move people from other axis to the other end for people to join vehicles to travel to Port Harcourt.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tabaway. And, you know, it's easy to visualize. And, of course, we have some visuals on the screen so you can see, you know, the state of some of the roads being mentioned. I'll quickly go to Engineer Hassan now. You know, we've been having this, talking about the devastation associated with flooding when it comes to our roads. Why is it a reoccurring decimal? And then why this much damage to our roads? Because I remember that during an interview about 10 days ago, the Honorable Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Raji Fashola, actually said that over 154 roads and bridges have been damaged as a result of the floods this year. And, you know, that's just for the roads that have been assessed, because, you know, as the floods recede, they will continue to, you know, discover more roads that have been affected. Why this magnitude?
Thank you very much. I think the magnitude of what we have in the recent flood is the flood we had recently is quite much. But the important thing to note here is that all the roads that all engineering design of all our roads on our highways, water is being considered as a major factor in our design works. And in fact, we normally said water is an enemy to the road. In fact, in my first lecture in the highway department in my university, my professor told me that water is an enemy to the road. So in the first place, whatever we are designing, that water we consider is the number one effect that we know will damage the road. So in our design, engineering design, we make sure that these roads are designed to be able to sustain, to be able to withstand the water table, and also to withstand flash flood, which lasts for within days. That's why in the structures we have, you have in the design you make sure that you have your material that is used. You soak them in water for number of days. We have 24 hours, 48 hours. In fact, the court has been increased to 96 hours today for our subgrade and substructure. That is the foundation, because all roads are laid on what we call subgrade. That's the first layer of which you design and build a road, just like you are building. That's the first layer of the foundation. So that foundation is so considered that you make sure that any water table within it can withstand any such water table. That's why the design standard mentioned that in the south, southern Nigeria, we have longer time of subjecting the material to water than in the northern part of the country where you have less water. So, and also the drainage structures are also part of a solution to most of this design. Then all roads are designed in such a way that you have a very good drainage network, drainage system. That drainage system also enables your road to withstand whatever happens, and at the final layer, you cap it with sealed material, either flexible pavement or rigid pavement. That's why you have we call it the nylon tar or something, because all you are doing is to make sure that those materials do not come into contact with water. Because once there's water, most those material used in the construction of those what come in contact with water, the strength and the strength is reduced drastically. So that's why we have all this has been considered. Most of this work has been designed, but we should know that this subgrade and other materials we are talking about, they are granular materials. And this granular material is that by the time you have water of that level, you have a kind of piping and other things that are going underneath the structure. So once those things are underneath, they are washing those materials that are already compacted, that are in it, and creating voids. So the moment those voids now are removed, then you see what we are seeing today, because there's hollow on the bottom created by the flood.
All right. Thank you, Engineer Seidu Hassan. Let's bring in now the former president of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, Engineer Kashim Ali, a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria. Engineer Kashim, on a first note, how does one explain, we know that we have had floods this year, how does one explain the fact that a good number of the highways that we have seen, they're looking like cracker biscuits that have been squashed by some playful child? What happened?
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, NTA, for even bringing us to focus on fixing washed out highways, and also maybe fixing other highways that have not been washed out. Because but one thing that has shown clearly, I listened to both Biosat Commissioner and the gentleman from Jigawa. There were some roads that were inundated but did not fail, and others gave way. I wanted to hear what you say about the road from Kano to Kazauri, for instance, because over the years, what we have done badly in Nigeria is planning. I often hear people say we are good planners, and any plan I cannot implement is not a good plan in the first instance. So for me, if you can't implement it, then it's not a good plan. So we are not good planners anything until we can implement or have implementation strategies for them. So if you look at because the one that has crackers is this east-west road, and you know the circumstance of that road, it has, it has been it's a controversial road, for instance. The way it started and the way it has been going on. For so many years, it has been on. And we have not seen results. And the manner in which projects have implemented shows that there's not enough of planning. Hassan talked about for the civil engineer, you want to do your road, you want to control the material you use. You can pick the material from anywhere. I want to control so that it's suitable for the environment you are using it. So it's not. So that's why I say what you use in the north is not what you use in the south. When we do there's what we call generally called CBR, CBR test. When you do the CBR test for the south, it's soaked CBR test. You soak the material sometimes for as much as 7 days, depending on the severity, because the engineers will look at the environment. If this place is almost permanently flooded, then they need to soak it for so long so that you see how it resists such. If you have done a thorough design for that place and you have constructed according to design, this will not have happened, not in this manner. And again, what you do, that road, is perpendicular to the direct line of the river Niger. So what you do in such circumstances also is you go along the route and begin to create dams. If along that road, we would have several dams with spillways along the way, so that as you are having this inundation, the water will be properly managed and even put to some use, and then you take the excesses out. But when a good planning is not done, this is it. So what we need to do in fixing these rules and all our rules, let's sit down and use our heads.
What did we use before?
We use money.
Oh, we use money.
We just use money. We just threw money at the problem. We did not have enough time to sit down and say, look, what do we really want to achieve? Let's do it well. It may take time. Sometimes, we have our ways of working. One engineer said, look, until I go there, take my sample, do it for 7 days, and be sure I'm not going to touch it. Someone says, if you are not touching, get out. We'll get somebody who will come and do it. And so all those things do happen. I'm saying this is not out to disrespect for anybody, but it's a national challenge we have. And it's not only in that, in highways, in all sectors, we seem to throw money. How much is it going to cost? Oh, okay, take this. Start working. We'll design as we work. It doesn't work like that. If you see the old roads that way, look at the Lokoja As bad as that road is in its originally, the inundation didn't take the road out. The trace was also soaked for a long time. It didn't happen because it's a road well designed and constructed. So that's what we have done. But now coming to the East-West Road, the way the one you call crack, I like that name. I think I'll share it with my colleague. Let's use it as a way of describing it because it's very unusual. But when it happens like this, what you do is the universities will go there and do a careful study. Because the manner, though I can imagine that the failure came from, original failures because of shear forces. There have been cracks of of that nature in that mode. Like we have this pattern here now. If assuming these joints were all cracks, and then there's a major action, every one of them will be looking for independence. So in the process, you have the crackers coming up. So this is what has happened. It now needs, instead of rushing there to clarify it and start rebuilding, please, I want to plead with the universities, civil engineering department of the universities in Port Harcourt, Bayelsa, honorable commissioner here. At least I tell your governor, he can give them some money. You can sponsor it with the university, Masoma University, if they have civil engineering, they can go there and do a study. Let's learn something from what has happened. What I'm saying now is speculative, but it's logical speculation because it's possible that is what happened, that there was no careful, thought out planning of that route the way it should be.
Thank you so much, Engineer Ali. We're talking about crackers and, it's a bit funny, but we're looking at the fact that so much money, like you said, so much money is thrown into the roads and, there's no adequate planning done. From 2015 to 2021, over 1.5 trillion naira has been budgeted for roads in this country. At the moment, FEMA is asking for about 100 billion naira to fix the roads that, have been affected by floods. And the East-West Road we're talking about, that we're talking, there's like crackers now. I hear that 506 billion naira, is, required to fix that road. Now, this is so much money. And throwing it away like that, I don't think it's service, to the Nigerian people and also to the taxpayer. So I'll quickly come to you, Mr. Tabawe. We are here right now. Roads have been destroyed. We have roads now like crackers and they are impassable. What is the fate of communities that have been completely cut off? We know that transportation is required for logistics and all of that for people to survive. How are these communities surviving at the moment in Bayelsa?
The communities are surviving, but at a very difficult level. I will use the university community of Amasoma, Niger Delta University, as an example. Universities have resumed. The students are supposed to go back to campus. Lectures have even started. And for now, they've decided to have online lectures. However, commuters drive to a point where the road was severed, was cut, and they follow a footbridge across the cut portion. They join motorbikes to another point. They cross again until they get to the university community. So it is a very difficult thing for them. However, His Excellency directed that we should move immediately to the roads to commence work. And for the Niger Delta University, it's a priority. And so we've engaged a contractor to step in. What we intend to do is that, looking at what happened concerning the roads, we want to create culverts at the areas we notice that the flood affected most, the areas that are cut. Because in constructing road in Bayelsa, it is quite different from constructing road in the northern part of the country. First, you have to clear the thick forest. You have to also remove unsuitable materials. Then you have to create embankments. After creating embankments with mud, then you sand fill. Sometimes 1.5 meters to 2 meters, 2.5 meters. And when you have this kind of flooding, the mud with which you use as an embankment will not be able to withstand the currents. And so where you have culverts, maybe in the design process it was not big enough, it will not be able to contain, to be able to withstand the current, and so it will cave in, especially when the mud is washed away. All what you have is sand, and the water will be able to push away the sand, and before you know, it will collapse, it will crack. So, if you say it is a design problem, yes, but you also know that in the Delta region, you have a lot of creeks, canals, rivulets, and all the rest. And in designing, you have to make provision for it. But most times we consider that, okay, having a culvert in this place, it will be able to carry the volume of water. But when you have this kind of excess water, and the provision made for it is not wide enough, then we experience this kind of. So going forward, we intend to create as much culverts as possible in areas that we believe that when it is introduced, it will be able to stand this kind of problems. And so the communities, well, we don't have any choice, but we are moving in swiftly to ensure that for these areas we have identified, we will create a bypass, fill it to a level for vehicles to pass while we construct box culverts that will be able to contain, will be able to allow the flow of water if we have this kind of flooding in the future.
Thank you, Estate Surveyor and Valuer Tableway. Let me ask, because I'm going to ask the same question for the Jigawa Executive Secretary of the Emergency Management Agency. What are the emergency measures? Because some of the things you just explained now would appear to be long-term solutions. Anybody hearing you talk about culverts will assume that you probably go to the supermarket and just pick it off the shelf. Culverts are made of concrete, and to construct a culvert of its own, that will require, you have to have your granite, you have to cement, you have to have your iron rods, and then you have to, when you construct, you have to allow it cure for a while. So we are saying for the weeks that all of this will take, what are the emergency measures that are in place? Are the roads passable now? I would imagine, for instance, some would say bring in rocks to the place to fill it. In the meantime, the trucks that are going to convey the rocks, are they of sufficient tonnage that can go through the cracked up highways? What are the emergency measures that are in place?
Okay, the emergency measures that are in place, I already mentioned it. I said for the road leading to Niger Delta University, Amasoma, we have engaged a contractor to construct, to prepare a bypass on possibly the right-hand side, sand fill it, because we have sand already, we have sand that we can use. So it's to haul sand, stabilize it, and allow vehicles to pass while the actual construction of the culverts will take place. So the emergency approach to it, to enable people access the road, to drive on the road, is to create a bypass where we intend to carry out further development in terms of box culverts, which will definitely take reasonable time. So we have decided on that, and we are going on with the work immediately. And I strongly believe that in 1, 2, 3 weeks, we'll be able to get that done. We are not going to use one contractor. We will approach all areas that we have identified. That is the approach we are going to use so that people will be able to access the communities.
All right. Thank you, Tebo. We'll come back to you in the course of the conversation. Now, let's rejoin via Zoom the Executive Secretary of the Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency. I hope you listened to Engineer Kashim Ali while he was speaking. He asked a question about the Kano-Kazaure highway. If you have an idea what the state of that road is, you probably would like to comment on that. But tell us, because we can see some of the visuals out of Jigawa and some of the stories that we have also read about the broken highways and communities that have been cut off. What emergency measures are being deployed in the meantime?
As I told you, most of the communities around the Jigawa State area have been cut off even from the state capital. What happened is during that time, the state government mobilized equipments to go and at least make the culvert that had been washed away, at least to be motorable. So almost all the 56 culverts which have been cut away by the flood have been, they are now motorable, in which all the 27 local governments are now having access to the state capital. And apart from that, the state government also invited a committee of experts from Netherlands who came here, I think, last week, and they went around the states and even the flooded areas there, so that to mitigate the floods in the state. So they went around and see what has happened themselves, and they are back to their country. And after that, also the government produced a technical committee, which is now working day in, day out, go around the state and designing better roads and better culverts, so that next time when it is being constructed, the water cannot wash away the culverts. They are trying their best in producing that design. And I'm sure very soon the government will start constructing the broken culverts. So this is what is going on. And concerning the highways, as the engineer said, from Kano to Kazori, that one has no problem at all. But from Kano, Borno Kudu to Maiduguri, that one was washed away since last year and still is not motorable. But we have gone around there last time. We have seen that the federal government is trying its best in constructing the bridge. So we'll be happy if the work can be able to be finished in a quick time, because people are suffering around that area. Even Borno Kudu was completely blocked. That Borno Kudu is a local government, and it was completely blocked from foods, even fueling, so many things. So we have to remove people from the southern part of the river to the southern part of the river, so that they can have access to food and so many things. So we are appealing to the federal government to try its best and complete the bridge, because the bridge is major from Kano to Maiduguri. It's a major bridge. But the construction is a bit slow since last year. So we are appealing for the federal government to please complete that construction in time. Thank you.
Babura, thank you. Let's quickly come now to Engineer Hassan. Earlier you talked about, the procedure for constructing roads and, all the materials that are required and all of that. And you know that if we want to go through that process now to fix some of these roads, as already mentioned, we need these roads at least to work. People need to move. Things need to be done. People, a lot of, for us to survive, we need to, move from one place to the other. Logistics and all of that, food, just name it. What do you think we can do now? Short-term measures that can be taken to make these routes passable. Maybe state governments can venture into, the federal government can also, because if we want to go through the process, like you said, it will take some 24 months, 36 months and all of that. So what can we do, in the short term, looking at the fact that Christmas is here, the elections are here? What can we do in a very short time to get these roads working?
Thank you very much. I think what the stakeholders in terms of the federal government, the state government, even the local government, we can move in quickly to make sure that these roads are motorable. And this road can be motorable immediately. We can make this road motorable by deploying the resources required by all these agencies. In terms of, because when you look at it critically, when we are saying at times it's bridges and the other things, when you look at it technically, the bridges are still standing because all the bridges are on pile. But it's the material that are surrounding the bridges that have been washed away by water. Even some of these culverts are standing. But the materials that were used to fill the culvert and something, that they are the ones that have been washed away. This can be done immediately by deploying equipment and materials to reinstate this thing with, you don't need to import anything. Like you said, you can some fill those areas. Some of them you might even use some boulders and the rest of them to make them quicker, and then fill them so that they can be motorable before we can now design to see how we can design look at this road critically, like he said, analyze them, and then have, like he said, in engineering, that's what we call in design, like in Bayelsa, we have balancing culverts. So increase more of the culverts so that water can be moving from one place to another, because once water come and is still a bit restrained, then they try to force that particular, and once there's a weakness, it will wash away that particular portion. And that's what we're having today. So this thing can be done. It can be fixed. It's not rock science. It can be fixed immediately. And that's why we have agencies like Ecological Fund and other government agencies, NEMA and what have you, that can deploy the equipment and material. And locally, some of these roads already have some contractors on site working. Those contractors can be directed to move to those areas and make sure that the roads are motorable. You know, even before the Christmas, because it's like you use lateralized boulders and other things before a permanent solution is gotten. But I want to add here is that all this fire brigade approach and what we have is not the solution, because the causes, because if there's what are the causes of this excess flooding? And those causes have to be addressed. Otherwise, it will be a recurring decimal from time to time. So we have to address the causes of this flooding first. And what are the causes? We realize that most of our rivers in Nigeria have been silted because of deforestation, human activities, and so many other things. And a lot of areas that are floodplain have been, a lot of buildings and other human activities have taken place. And these waters are looking for where to move. So if we can have these control measures, buffer dams, even in the creeks, you can have, because when you have this dike, buffer dams and what have you, you can control the flooding. And that's why this year you see that because of the Kanji Dam, the River Niger, you have about 3 dams across River Niger. Kanji Dam, Jeba Dam, and we have a dam in Jeba, and then another dam down the stream. Shiloro Dam. So you have less flooding on those axes, while you have more flooding along the Benue, because we don't have a single dam there, right from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. So fixing the road is important, but let us also start to think of how do we mitigate this by reducing this flooding, because if all those are these dams and buffer dams, dike and the rest of them, we can hold the water and release it at the phase you want the water to move.
Okay, Engineer Saidu, thank you very much. Incidentally, we've had conversations also around management of Nigeria's water bodies and main rivers, and water experts have re-emphasized the point that you have just said. But again, those who have to move from place to place and need to use the highways are hampered in the meantime. And we're talking about emergency measures to deploy. Engineer Kashemale, again, using your experience in the public sector, isn't this, for instance, an opportunity for public works employment? You know, they're talking about getting contractors to do this work. A contractor will work at his or her own pace, ultimately to deliver the job and then maximize profit. Isn't this an opportunity? Because if the Commissioner for Works and Infrastructure says, look, we have sand, in 1 or 2 weeks we want to create a bypass to get the sand, as many hands as you can get to work, the job will be delivered. As many hands as you can get to work 24/7. Because some of the things we see in terms of our construction sites is that sometimes they just function as though they were 9 to 5 employees. So what opportunities are there in this particular instance to truly engage persons in public works?
Kingsley, thank you very much for this. You know, it's like you took it out of my thought. We have had situations before where there have been interventions from within, and they have proven more effective. As a young engineer, my boss took me to one bush and dumped me. Say, we need a bridge here, and we are going to do it. We have already got army engineers. They have helped us to do the plan. They'll provide some assistance if you need. They put a kerosene fridge in an office for me. He dumped me there and said, if you need money, come. So I had to stop. I stopped socializing. Because I was just in trouble. But we did it. That bridge is still there up to today. It's working well. And so we did it at less than half the cost that the contractor was offering. So there are many things like that. This is an opportunity. Thank God the commissioner is here. Please, the advice he has given is very valuable advice given freely. Get your staff in the Ministry of Works, the engineers, the technicians, the technology. Let them go. Even that diversion work can be done by them. Where they cannot, they will seek assistance. We always seek assistance from army engineers, military engineers. They always have some equipment they can always assist with. They will help you. The ones you can buy immediately or you can rent from the contractors and do some of these diversion. Let them even have hands-on. Believe you me, you have a better result than what you do giving a contractor. Because the contractor needs time to check, because you're not going to pay him immediately. He needs to check his balance sheet, go to the bank to negotiate and all that. That takes a lot of time. Before he comes back, the damage, the benefit you want, you may not even get it. So I totally support that. This is a time a call for action, not only in Bayelsa, even in Jigawa. He didn't need to go to Netherlands, so he should have come here. There are many engineers here. I volunteer to help him. There are many who are ready. In fact, even in Jigawa, Suleiman Ademu, if you get him, don't mind that he's a minister, he will remove the toga of minister who can form something to come and help the state to get it back on foot. There's not too much about solving this problem. We just need to just sit down and say we are ready to solve, want to use our head, we're not emotive about it, we don't have money to give. We just want solution. It comes out easily. Please, this is the time to mobilize everybody. Let's just get the work done. It will be done easily, cheaper. Even this maintenance work we are doing, like sometimes I read in the news, I get a bit sad. A contractor has been given, the contractor say I've not paid him, and so he will not work. There are some sections that you can even give to the public works department to do. Ministry of Works engineer can do it. Challenge them. When they fail, the failure is even localized and you can deal with them. But they are not even going to fail because they are so afraid of failure that they will do it well. Far better than the contractors will do.
Yeah, Toby, what you want to respond to the suggestions made because there's one suggestion by Engineer Kashim Ali earlier, namely that this is a research opportunity also for the universities in terms of soil testing and lessons learned, so that going forward, some of them can use it for their research papers, but more importantly, as advisory to the governments in proceeding therefrom. We're going to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
What we face mostly now are flashes of cowardly attacks from the rump of groups that have been routed in one location or the other, moving to another to give the
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And the topic for discussion today is 2022 flood fixing washed out highways. And we still have our guest with us. And, as we begin this second part of the conversation, I'd like to ask the Honorable Commissioner for Works in Bayelsa State. The floods only exposed how bad our roads are. And, someone mentioned earlier that, before the floods, we had bad roads. And I'm sure in Bayelsa you had bad roads. Could you tell us what, the state government, before the floods, if you had plans, to fix some of these roads? And, some measures have been mentioned here that, you could get people in the communities to come fix the roads and all of that. What exactly is the plan of government, to ensure that these roads are fixed and then to prevent a reoccurrence? Because it's one thing to get it, done. And then another thing, by the time we get to 2023 again, we'll be talking about the same issues, the same roads, the same, so much money will be going down the drain, fixing the same thing. What's the plan of the government of Bayelsa State? Or are you waiting for the federal government alone?
I want to say that we are not waiting for the federal government to come. Our governor is very, very proactive, has already set up a Directorate of Flood and Erosion Control. When the governor was sworn in February 2020, I was appointed August 2020. By October, we had flooding like this, but not up to this magnitude. And we went around the entire state looking at flood-affected communities, how properties were destroyed. And immediately, His Excellency the Governor set up a committee from the Niger Delta University to carry out proper studies. The committee did its work, presented a report to the State Executive Council. That report was considered, and the committee, the university, is asked to go further to come up with practical solutions to the problems. And so the committee is working. Immediately after the flood, I also carried out a kind of research work with the engineers of the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, surveyors from Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, and geologists from Ministry of Environment. We went around the entire state and we actually did some work. During the 2020 flood, the east-west road leading to Pokuma, Sabagria, we had a serious problem. A particular area was cut. What we did was to create this bypass, as I mentioned, and now constructed a double cell culvert there. This year, 2022 flood, that place is still safe, very safe. However, we had a problem further, very far away from the area we fixed. So, we are looking at it. We also considered Yenegua, the state capital, and carried out a pilot project. We have a PA Creek running parallel to the Imbiama-Yenegua Road in Yenegua, and it takes its route from River Non. And so we consider that Yenegua was an agrarian society. It was a local government headquarters. Some of the creeks, some of the canals were used by the natives to bring in farm produce from the hinterland. But the state capital, as it is today, have become a metropolis. It is no longer an agrarian society where you farm. The farms, the lands have all been sold for development. And as it is also known to all of us, some have built on these canals, blocking the canals. To me, I will say that yes, the Physical Planning Board have not been able to do its work properly by allowing people to build on canals, which are supposed to serve as drainage routes. We undertake a pilot scheme by deliberately blocking a canal. We discussed with the locals and they agreed that if we do that, it will save the entire neighborhood. And we did that. As at 4th, 5th, 6th of October, the area that was very much flooded in 2020 was not flooded. The Air Force base was not flooded to a large area. But the natives, in their own wisdom, those living across the other part of the creek, felt that the water level rose as a result of blocking that particular canal. I explained to them They said no. But at the end of the day, when that place was opened through sabotage, the commissioner's quarters, the House of Assembly quarters, the whole neighborhood, everywhere, the Air Force base, everywhere was flooded. But it was a pilot scheme.
Okay.
Other areas, we experienced the same thing. However, they later came back to say that because the water level did not go down, they came back to say, oh, what we did was very good, that they will have allowed it to stay. And the neighborhood, the people came together to say, government, please come and do what you did so that subsequent years, if we have this kind of flood, it will not suffer. But what we did was to ensure that the place was used to allow the drainage, rainwater, the runoff water to flow to the creek with non-return valves fixed, and the water from the creek will not go in to flood the areas. Those are some of the things that we do. So we are working.
Honorable Commissioner, let me interject very quickly. Some of the points that you have raised in response to my colleague's question, those points relate to urban planning, infrastructure development, and land use. And I'm happy that you acknowledge that there appear to have been some laxity in doing the right thing. And of course, against the backdrop of the devastation that the state has suffered, these are issues to take into consideration. We have seen here in the Federal Capital Territory, a couple of years ago, there was flooding devastation in some parts of the FCT, and Lokogoma, here in the Federal Capital Territory, flooded. Galadimawa, floods. A director who was on his way to the airport was swept away in that flood, drowned. We also saw what happened in a place called Trademore Estate, built along water canals, and then the FCTA moved it and said, take these structures down. And this year, we have not heard any of those terrible stories. I want to return via Zoom now to the Executive Secretary of the Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency, Yusuf Sani. Alhaji Yusuf, well, what you are doing in terms of temporary measures, I don't imagine, for instance, that this was part of the 2022 budget of Jigawa State. How are you getting the resources?
Let me go a little back to my friend who talked about this Netherlands. Jigawa State is one of the best producers of paddy rice in Nigeria. I think every year the government has tried its best in producing better crops for the farmers, and we are getting better yield every year. But unfortunately, this plant is always washing away the crops. So that's why I'm just talking about the flood generally. So that's why the government invited this expert from Netherlands to come and see what is going on and maybe to give an advice on what to do to prevent this flooding generally from Jigawa State, because every day we are facing this kind of problem. And this Netherlands, they are very expert. They are expert in flood. There is even a saying that God has created the world, and Dutch created the Netherlands. So that's why the government invited these people to go and see what advice they can give. Maybe if they finish designing what to do, then the government will look for our engineers locally. So that's why the government invited that one. Well,
I asked Yusuf Sani, I asked, where are you getting the resources from?
The resources is from the state government. The state government is providing the resources to make the construction better and to make all the roads accessible. So it is the state government providing the resources.
State government providing resources. I would quickly come to you, Engineer Ali. You mentioned earlier ways that we can get this done at minimal costs. I already mentioned that from 2015 to 2021, over 1.5 trillion naira, for roads, and that's outside other, means of raising funds for fixing roads. Talking about the Sukuk Fund, the Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme and all of that to raise more money to be able to fix roads and all that. What do you think is the right thing, that the federal government should do and agencies that are in charge of, the road network? We know that we have about 195,000 kilometers of road network in the country and only 60,000 are paved at the moment. What do you think that, should be done so that once we get a road fixed, we can go and sleep, whether, whatever it is that comes, we are sure that those roads will continue to work. Instead, we begin to look at other areas we want to open up. What exactly should we do right? You said earlier that, we're spending money, not planning. So how do we plan? What are the right things that we need to put in place to get this problem solved?
Thank you very much. Do you know what we've been doing over the years is even rehabilitating existing roads. There are many new roads that have not even been touched at all, because we have not engaged properly in maintenance. Maintenance starts immediately you finish the construction of a road. And if you do proper maintenance, you are not likely until after the shell life of the road to go to do a rehabilitation or reconstruction. But often we do rehabilitation shortly after construction because of poor maintenance policy. So what we need to do is, first, the roads we are working on, let's speedily work on them. But the other roads there are some roads that are not we have both major and minor roads. There are some minor roads that are not critical, that we could challenge engineers in the MDAs to maintain them. Hassan told me like that there was a case of a road in linking Adamawa and like that the bridge almost failed. In fact, the totality, the base was washed off. And if they had to wait for a contractor, they maybe by the time the contractor will get his later sign agreement and come to site, the bridge would have come down. But they had to do it by direct labor, and within 1 week they fixed it. And I can assure you that whatever it is, the cost of fixing it cannot be a quarter of what the contractor would have charged. So at a time like this, it's time, let's begin to look at our challenges, identify them, and do the needful. The state governments should stop asking federal government to take over their responsibilities, because that's what state governments do a lot. They keep their money to do whatever, and every time every governor now, when this flooding came, they're all shouting. I'm happy that they say they should come and account for the ecological fund they gave them, because what have you done with the money? So let federal government speedily fix the major roads with the contractors that are on them, but the other minor roads, they could be done, and people will use it. Do you know that most of the minor roads like now? I remember one time I went to Edo, and in fact, I was sleeping when I woke up in the bus. I said, "Hey, we have taken the wrong road. The road to Edo cannot be like this." And they say, "No, this is it." So later when we were leaving Auchi for Benin, they say there's one route that is shorter, but that there are robbers. I said, I prefer the robbers to
bad road.
And we took it. I said, people were surprised. I said, yes, I'll take that risk. They said, well, the robbers, when they arrest you on that road, they'll ask you to bring your POS. They will take money. I said, I'll even transfer the money to them. But I took that road, and it was good. So we came.
You didn't have to use your POS.
We didn't have to use it, because in Nigeria we budget on luck, and I budgeted on luck that day. It worked for me for once. So such roads can be done by direct labor. Then we do the major ones with the contractors. So in that way we'll save money and we'll get results. Because some of the engineers even when it comes to mobilization, you're not only about Ministry of War, Federal Ministry of War, if you are working on a road in Edo State, for instance, you bring all the engineers, both from the state and the federal field office, come together and plan and do the work. You go to another state, you do the same thing. By the time you do it, within 1 year, you see that we have roads to pass. It will reduce insecurity, it will increase our economic potentials, and then we'll be happier people. There will be no tension in the country. Because if you look at truly, the tension in the country results from people being unhappy. You wake up in the morning, you want to go to the next town, you can't go because the road is bad. Or when you try to go, your vehicle gets damaged. If
you have to pay higher fare.
Exactly, or pay higher fare. You will pay higher fare again, you get to the road, the bad portion. While you are lamenting that the place is bad, somebody is waiting for you there to extort. He said that an agent of government or an agent of the of darkness will be there to extort from you. Either way, it is trouble. You get home sad. So what I would advise is, this is a time for us to do planning. Planning is science. It has its own method, and when you do it, you get the result. You will know you have the result. It's not mystics. So if we do it, it will get result. But I think that is what I would just say. Thank you very much.
All right, Engineer Kashim Ali, thank you very much. Engineer Seydou Hassan, I wanted to bring in the Netherlands perspective. Engineer Kashim had challenged Jigawa Executive Secretary to sort of consult Nigerian engineers. But the point has often been made about the Netherlands. Largely below sea level, they have roads in some of the busiest ports around the world. And their roads are not cracking up the way we see them elsewhere. And in fact, what is being done in Lagos from Apapa to Woronshoki, that is the hard pavement, is an example of relief and if not near permanence that can come. Why, for instance, are we not resorting to that, say, on the east-west road? Might the roads have cracked up the way they did now if we had pavement? And by the cost, just what advice do we give ourselves in this particular circumstance? Because the long-term measures, build dams, dams take a while to construct. Let's be frank about that. The desilting, that's to say dredging. Dredging also costs money. These are huge capital projects. What do we do in terms of constructing some of these roads, east-west and parts of Benin, Auchi, and Okene Highway?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very good question you asked. And Engineer Ali said, maintenance is one of our major issues in Nigeria. I'm coming to your question because the maintenance we have routine and periodic maintenance. In fact, virtually we don't have them in Nigeria. The roads are designed for a certain lifespan, and most of the time they will attend this lifespan without carrying out this maintenance. If this routine, because once you are there, if you look at our during the colonial days, you have this public works department. Granula is an art road, not even paved. But once the people have come along the route, whereby at every point, after every rain, they come and restate the lost gravel on that road, and the road is potable, year in, year out. So the Netherlands example is a very good example. We have the capacity to carry out those design whereby it's a kind of water structures that can, that's why I gave the example of the road in that east-west road have what we call balancing culverts. You have increased the number of culverts whereby water can be moving from one part to another. Once there's a pressure here, it has a relief on another side. So I'm
sorry to interject.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I know that because you're talking like professionals now. How well do those in the political authority listen to the professionals in approving designs and then in implementation? Because sometimes those who make comments on these roads, we are doing this, I'm not talking about now, but for years past, we have always, does the political authority listen to the professionals?
He has answered that. If you now come and design a road that you said is 100 million, and they will say, okay, go ahead and do it for either 50 or less than that. I cannot give you more than that. I said, because sorry to say, if you look at Victoria Island to the part of Ekpe in Lagos, it's in a waterlogged area. The road has been there for many years. It's like on most of the road, even Lagos Ibadan, around the Kara, they are all on pile. It has never failed. It's pavement on pile. Pavement on pile. It's no concrete. Bridge. It's there.
Very long.
It's what they call long bridge.
Yes.
Bridge. But in the political authority planners or players listen to the professionals.
Yes, we're listening. But they don't listen now.
Yes. So what we need now is road reform. because of money. And we need the private sector to come into, which they have started. You mentioned part of it, the SOKU, the credit tax refurbish, scheme, and the rest of them.
All right.
Yes, we need those towns to bring more
Thank
money
you so
into the
much,
road sector.
gentlemen. I think to be safe to say at this point that we hope that the agents of government will do the needful, listening to the professionals and, of course, doing the right thing so that the agents of darkness don't, take advantage of the situation, of our roads at the moment. And we must actually look at this issue critically because the elections are close. I mean, how would INEC officials move from one place to the other with electoral materials, when it's time for election and all that, besides other effects that, this devastation can actually cause us. That's it on Good Morning Nigeria. Of course, I want to thank our guests, for joining us today. I would like to start with Engineer Saidu Hassan, the National Chairman, Nigerian Institution of Highway and Transportation Engineers Division of Nigerian Society of Engineers. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria. And of course, the Commissioner, Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, all the way from Bayelsa State, Mr. Moses Tabewe. Thank you for being part of the discussion today.
Thank you very much.
Engineer Kashim Ali, former current president, thank you so much for your insights.
My pleasure.
And for sharing with us, your wealth of knowledge as regards how we can fix this problem. And joining us via Zoom from Duse, many thanks to the Executive Secretary, Jigawa State Emergency Management Agency, Yusuf Sani Babura. Thank you so much for being part of Good Morning Nigeria today.
All right, that's our program for today as well. We thank you for being with us. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7:01 in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Ian Ray John. Have a great day.
Thank you.